Since 1969, when 4 universities in the United States established the first connection between computers, thus giving rise to the birth of the Internet, until now, the world of information and communication has undergone a revolution without precedent in all the history of humanity. Technological development has enabled the reach of the so-called digital revolution to permeate virtually all fields and all levels of society. These developments occur so quickly that they affect our communication habits, changing our lifestyle at a speed that makes any studies on these developments increasingly obsolete overnight. While the benefits of this new and shifting scene are more than obvious, more and more critics warn of the danger of bad practices in our relationships as individuals and as society with the new media. One of the most brilliant theorists involved in the research on new communication practices is Henry Jenkins, author of Convergence Culture. It is precisely in this work where, in a creative and novel manner, Jenkins exposes his fundamental lines of thought. We speak of a paradigm that starts off with the premise that the media is more than technology. It presents a panoramic view of the media in which content created by the users flows through multiple channels, a communicative universe with high democratic potential, where communication systems are interdependent and in which consumption is considered an internet practice. But if we want to understand the teacher, we must first understand the individual, the citizen, and the media user, who Henry Jenkins certainly is as well.
To me, childhood was an incredibly happy time. I grew up in Atlanta. I had a life that was incredibly creative. I was encouraged to play and to write and to draw. And so for me, there was never a moment when I wasn't participating in my culture. And I tried as a parent to bring that into the life of my son. So when he was quite young, we began trading off bedtime stories. So my son, we'd read him a book one night, and the next night we'd ask our son to write a story. And as he wrote the story, we'd type it up, and we'd print them out from the computer, and he'd draw pictures in them, and then we'd Xerox them and send them to the grandparents as birthday presents and Christmas presents. So my son saw himself as an author at a very, very early age. And at the same time, what came into his stories were often the material of media. So it created a space for me as a parent to talk to my son about the importance of media in his life. I think the most important thing right now for fathers and mothers is to be aware of what their young people are doing in the digital world. That they don't need parents snooping over their shoulders, right? There's too many technologies that are encouraging kids to spy on their kids, to follow behind them and look at the traces of what they've done online. I don't think that's the right model. I think the right model is they need adults to watch their back, right? They need adults who are aware of what they're doing, who ask them the same sort of questions about what they do online that you would ask about what they did with their friends offline. You wouldn't send your kids off to stay at someone's house without knowing a certain amount about it. And you wouldn't expect them to deal with problems on their own without providing them some guidance about your values, about what you see as safe.
Aumentan los casos de acoso a menores en la red. La Fiscalía anima a denunciar casos como el de un ciberacosador que engañó a 60 víctimas de entre 8 y 17 años en toda España. Utilizó lo que se llama como grooming. Así es como se conoce ese engaño de un adulto para contactar con menores y obtener material de contenido sexual.
The recent social alarm caused by the highly publicised news coverage of some cases of cyberbullying reveals the ways minors use the media, especially the internet and the virtual realities where they interact, which are often beyond the control of their parents, who, in many cases, are digital illiterates.
So it's important for parents to know what's going on in their kid's life. And that may be as simple as sitting down with the kid and watch them play a video game and be aware of the accomplishments they have in playing a video game, being proud of what they can do on the game because they're proud of it. You know, and parents who go and watch sporting events, maybe watch a soccer game where the kid's not playing that well, but you cheer them on and you celebrate what they've accomplished because it's important to the kid. The same thing should be going on as parents engage with kids in video games and help them feel a sense of power and accomplishment about what they're able to do in these new media environments. School is both the best of times and the worst of times, to borrow from Jenkins. School can be that place that rewards creativity, intelligence, curiosity, or it can be the place that destroys them, that dampens them, that forces us into the box. And I think that's the choice we face right now, that school is the one force that can help democratize access to new media. But it can only do so if it embraces the changes that are coming rather than shutting them out. And I think there's a real struggle right now over schools around the world. How do they respond to a world where more people have a possibility of shaping cultural production and distribution, and yet we don't know how to incorporate that into the traditional ways that knowledge gets passed from one generation to the next. You know, happy days are when we spend time with other people. You know, I think we enjoy time together. And for me, that can be time together online, or that can be time together in face-to-face. Ultimately, in our society today, it's a mixture of the two, that we meet people face-to-face, we break bread with them, we drink with them, we laugh with them, but we also can continue those relationships online. But I think one of the exciting things about social media is we can carry our friends and our good times with us as we travel.
Sunday, Monday, happy days. Tuesday, Wednesday, happy days. Thursday, Friday, happy days. The weekend comes, my cycle hums, ready to race to you.
In America, in the 1960s, Alvin Toffler warned us that relationships would become increasingly disposable as the average American moves once every 4 years and frequently across regions, that we would cease to engage other people. We wouldn't know our neighbors. We wouldn't know the people who lived across the hall or across the street from us. But what's happened in the age of social media is we carry our relationships with us the way a turtle carries the shell on its back. It's part of us. And that infrastructure of connections with other people allows us, from people in my generation, we're rediscovering people we lost. That when I moved away from Atlanta after high school, and I lost track of many of my friends in high school, and gradually via Facebook, we're finding our way back together, and we're sharing old stories online. We're laughing with each other about our teachers or about the pranks or about old jokes or whatnot. And that's really also happy days for me in an age of social media. I love television. I watch 2 or 3 hours of television a day. All kinds of television shows. I love reality shows like Survivor or Amazing Race. I love serious dramas like the HBO shows like Game of Thrones, or the AMC shows like Mad Men. I like everything from quality drama to the sleaziest, most exploitative dimensions of television.
Run!
What's exciting about television is it's a long-form story, that we live with the characters, the worlds, the situations of a television show over an extended period of time. And the other thing that's exciting about television is it comes into our homes. So it's part of our lives, and we can claim a sense of ownership over it. We can claim the right to tell those stories in a way that film always seems to belong somewhere else. Film's on a big screen, film's in public. Film is not fully ours, but television is something we own as fans, and I think that's a particularly powerful relationship. Play turns out to be one of those skills that teachers are most intrigued with, but they don't necessarily know how to bring it into their classroom. And we've developed in Los Angeles an after-school program called Play, which stands for Participatory Learning and You.
The Cyberwise Guide to Media Literacy. It used to be if you could do this and this, then you were media literate.
Hip hip hooray!
And we train teachers to help think about how to bring play into their classroom. And we do it by playing with teachers, by creating opportunities for them to play around with technologies, not to do so in a focused, systematic way, but to come up with creative projects and make them together and take risks. One of the things we do is have them make, using their cell phones, 60-second how-to video. Many of which turn out to be very silly how-to videos, but in 20 minutes time they have to make the video. They figure out how to make a production, they shoot the production, they upload the production, and they're over the hump in terms of beginning to use media production in their classroom.
So when we first come into the program, we usually do a warm-up, like play a little game, and then they start like explaining us what we have been doing, and then they tell us like how does this relate to the next thing that we're gonna do, because we do some different stuff, and then like after working on our projects, and then over time we're gonna finish it, we wrap it up with word of mouth. So we just start saying how does the project that we're gonna do and we're doing relate to the word wall, and then categorize it by the different meanings of each word that there is in the word.
At the school where we work, we do have an after-school program. And in the after-school program, our young people are working with improvisational actors to learn how to use improv, to get in touch with their bodies, to get in touch with their emotions. Often these are kids who have lived in cultures of violence and have a lot of strong feelings and they don't know how to express it. And so play acting, literally, becomes a way of exploring that. Or we recently brought a hip-hop artist, MC Lars, into the schools in Los Angeles. And he's been teaching kids to think about poetry. And specifically, he's working with the works of Edgar Allan Poe, the American poet and short story writer. And so he gets these kids to write hip-hop songs about Poe and to translate what they get out of reading Poe's work into some modern vernacular form that allows them to express something of their world.
The red pen will crash your party, and then I'll for good bring that to everybody. The red pen will crash your party, and then I'll for good bring that to everybody.
Damn, there be chicks everywhere, drinks in the air, stuff in the hair. Run from the sin, and what does he wear? Where does he go? Is he really there? So let me just run away to the I got 9 lives in my state. Secondhand got me elevated out of my place. Death be waiting for me when I touch down. Destiny coming the corner around, deciding whether I should not bounce and where I do keep shadowing the ground.
He just did a video about Mask of Red Death, which is Poe's story of the plague, and this man who's having a party during the plague and invites his rich friends in to protect them from the plague, but the plague gets in inside anyway, and the stories